officially. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for what has accidentally been the week of Kythe. We were joined by Angus McGrail last night for some Whiskey Land, and we're in the esteemed company of Aaron tonight with his club Qing bottlings. So both are co-owners of the upcoming Kythe distillery, which I'm hopefully getting to visit in a few weeks. We just need the third owner, Johnny, to hop on a call and it'll complete the set. We'll get the trifecta. But I'm very excited for the lineup of tonight's whiskies. We're tasting through some of my personal favorite distilleries tonight, and including something I don't think I've ever seen before, a Lefroy cask finished Glen Moray. So we've got some special stuff, and whiskey number one inbound is an extra special whiskey on the taster tonight. So yeah, outside of a few select people, in Hong Kong, we might be the first people to taste it. But before we dive in, quick housekeeping. There's a full virtual tasting housekeeping video sent out in the Zoom link email. Goes over my usual pointer of 6 glasses if you have them. Don't drink and drive is obviously the most important pointer from that video. That video is up on our YouTube channel as well if you ever need a refresher. I always love to see your tasting notes and questions in the chat, so please pop them in. They are my favorites to read out. And I'm going to quickly go through the tasting order verbally for the people watching back at home. So number one is the 2009 Benrinnes. Whiskey number two is the 2010 Benriach. Whiskey number three is the 1998 Ben Nevis. Oh my God, I'm excited for that one. Whiskey number four is the 2010 Orkney. Whiskey number five is the 2007 Glen Moray. And whiskey number six is the 2009 Inchgower. One of my other favorite distilleries. So without further ado, what I will do is hand it over to Aaron now, and he can tell us all about whiskey number one, this unreleased, very special, I can't believe we're getting to try this bottling. Tell us a bit about this.
Okay. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Aaron. I'm from Hong Kong. Brief introduction of myself, like 30 seconds. I started Club Qing around 10 years ago. It started as a whiskey bar, eventually moved to becoming an independent bottler. And a couple years ago, we started building a distillery in Scotland. It's called Kythe Distillery. And it will be open pretty soon. I mean, like in the next few months, we'll be distilling. So this is a simple story. So let's dive right into the first whiskey of tonight. It's a Benrinnes. Okay, the bottle looks like this. It's a Benrinnes 15-year-old. So this is quite an interesting whiskey. It's unreleased because this was never sold at all to anyone. As an independent bottler, of course, we bottled whiskeys for, under the Club Qing brand, but from time to time, we also bottled cask for different individuals or companies or whiskey groups or whatever. So this is a private bottling for a whiskey group in Hong Kong. And the funny thing about this group is it is actually a whiskey club consisting of people graduated from my high school. So it's quite funny when you put whiskey and high school together because by the time people graduated from high school, they are not supposed to be old enough to drink whiskey at all. But those who graduated from my high school somehow decided to form a whiskey club, and I was involved in that club. So every year we select a cask for the group of the people, all from the same high school, to share. And this is our latest release. It's a release number 7. So this is the 7th year that we've done this before. So the reason why I've chosen this Benrinnes is because, there are a lot of reasons, but I don't know about your impression of the Benrinnes distillery. Normally, people don't really have a lot of opinion about Benrinnes because they don't have an official release, except for the flora and fauna, which is quite rare. It's almost always a 15-year-old, not a single cask. It's quite, it's a generic type of whiskey that is appealing to most people, but at the same time, you probably cannot pinpoint a lot of special characteristics from the distillery. To me, Benrinnes, it's more like a neutral spirit that is very ideal for making blended whiskey, like, Johnny Walker, stuff like that. But, you know, in Club Ching, what I always like to do is to improve the quality of the whiskey because as an independent bottler, we are, honestly, there aren't that many things that we can do. Independent bottlers source cask, they age them a bit, they bottle them, and they sell them. It's not like we distilled all these casks. So the thing that we can do to change the profile of the cask is relatively limited. But if you have patients like me, you can do wonderful things with a cask that is not so wonderful to begin with. For example, for this cask, I have decided to put the content of the cask into a sherry cask for a secondary maturation for 30 months. So this is like 2.5 years finish in a sherry cask. But I don't like the word finish because finish usually means a short period of time. So to me, anything that goes beyond 2 years, I call it secondary maturation. So this is secondary matured in a first fill Oloroso sherry cask. So let's try it. Nice to meet you all. Cheers.
Yeah, it's so cool. I think obviously, yeah, Benrinnes is a blending whiskey for the Johnny Walker stable, but I feel like it really hits that kind of neutral but slightly savory for spirit character where it's like it's not like a super fruity or a super light. So it hits a lovely savory richness as kind of the baseline for for the whiskeys that it creates. And this is just like yeah, it's rich, but it's not like overpoweringly so. It doesn't feel heavy on the palate. I don't know if anyone else is getting those like lovely, like deep perfume notes, like sandalwood, bergamot, like that kind of warm tone, like typically masculine perfumes, I suppose you would
Hmm.
say. But yeah, like instantly it was like really pretty in that really rich kind of way.
Um, you know, I've written like official tasting notes for this whiskey, but every time when I try it and when I compare it to the notes, I still find differences. So,
Yeah.
so for tonight, on the nose, I still find it a little bit of meatiness on the nose, not very strong, but a little bit. It's quite floral actually.
Mm.
And I find some like beef soup, beef consomme on the nose, which is a profile that I like a lot, but I'm not sure if you guys like it because it's quite weird to smell, beef consomme on the nose. But this
Yeah,
one,
I
I think
think
it has a
sometimes
little.
yeah, sometimes I get like the OXO beef stock cubes, that really like
Yep.
hearty rich. And again, it's a weird note, but I never think it's a bad thing. Like, I always kind of equate it with that Chinese five spice, like really rich, and Howard nailed it on the head, umami, that kind of umami broth stock kind of tone, which just
Yep.
in this cold Melbourne climate makes me feel warm.
Right. You guys are in winter right now, right?
We are. It's certain corners of the country are less wintry, but
Right.
Melbourne and Tasmania, we definitely feel the brunt of it. I've been looking at the weather forecast for Scotland when I'm there in 2 weeks, and I'm very excited for 23 degrees, shall we say?
Hong Kong is scorching now. Today is 32 degrees. It's insane. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. No,
Anyways, yeah.
it's definitely whiskey
So
drinking weather down here.
yeah, well, I mean, with the aircon, air conditioning on has to be.
Yeah.
So on the nose, I also find some like green bananas and ripe oranges, maybe peaches a bit. Overall, still quite fruity.
Mm,
Mm. On the palate, I think it's quite chewy. As I mentioned earlier, it's quite heavy on the palate. Probably due to the sherry cask, it adds a lot of weight into the liquid itself, and it's
yeah.
reflected more on the palate than on the nose, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It gives it that grippiness, and that like chewy quality. I think Scott said as well, yeah, lovely tongue coating texture.
Mm.
And Ashley's light and floral on the nose, but the palate's a bit sticky and a little bit tannic. Reminds me of salted caramel. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay. I just
Mm.
opened the chat. I can see
Yeah,
all you guys
see the
comment.
notes.
Ah, all right, all right. Yeah, sorry. Okay, great. Slight and floral in the nose. Yep, exactly. Sticky and a bit tannic. True.
Mm.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then on the finish, I find this whiskey has a medium to long finish. Not too long, probably because the ABV is a bit, towards the lower side. It's like around 50%, but it still has a lot of like dark chocolate, espresso, and salted walnut. Is there something like this, like grilled salted walnuts on the
I feel like
finish?
it's the kind of walnut that you would get in like a really fancy dark chocolate tart with like a little bit of sea salt over the top, like one of those
Mm, mm,
really
mm.
fancy bougie French tarts that are just like black chocolate that has no sugar in it and then the walnuts sprinkled on top. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Umami, definitely. Kimchi. Oh my God. Really?
Reminds you of kimchi. I mean, like, not the weirdest tasting note
Salted and
I've
sweet
had.
is yes. Kimchi is a very I can't find kimchi yet. Maybe I'll
Are we
try it.
having Is Mark trying to have another cheese moment? We had a moment with a Tormore yesterday, and Angus had to go get the bottle because he was like, "Why do you say it tastes like cheese?" Like it does. It's good cheese.
Okay. I need a little pour just because of the
Little
kimchi
refresher.
comments. I think kimchi is a very distinctive taste. I suppose you're saying the palate because kimchi means spicy and fermentation at the same time, like to the extreme. Mm, no kimchi for me, unfortunately. Check your glass.
Yeah.
No, I'm just joking.
Well, we
Um,
might we might see if the next whiskey gives you a bit of kimchi as well.
yeah, I
But
mean,
yeah,
you know
David as
what
well, no
I,
kimchi.
but you know what I meant to say. It's everyone has different sensitivities, both on the nose and the palate. So sometimes when you taste it like kimchi or banana, but I don't, it doesn't mean you are right, I'm wrong, or the other way around. It's just we all have different sensitivities. So, keep an open mind and, whenever I read someone else's tasting notes, there are certainly points that I agree. And there are certainly points that I can't find. But I think it's interesting to see how different people react or comment on exactly the same whiskey. So, hope you enjoy this first Benrinnes. I'm very sure zero bottle is available in Australia. In fact, zero bottle is available outside of my high school whiskey group.
Well, I don't even want to think about what Oliver had to barter and pay to get a bottle over here. But yeah, super, super glad we got to try this. This is particularly cool, and I'm sure we all are suddenly going to claim that we're alumni of your high school just to sneak into this whiskey club.
Yeah, the funny
But
thing is you cannot unless you go back to school.
exactly. And nobody wants that. Well, we might move on to whiskey number two, the
Yes.
Benriach. And I think for some of the new attendees, perhaps, give us kind of like a brief ethos of Club Qing, of the bar, and particularly the labels. I'm in love with these labels for this series. It's so
Okay.
pretty.
Okay. So let's try the second whiskey while I talk because it will be quite boring or
Yeah.
not. Uh, so Club Chain, it's a whiskey bar initially, and then we slowly moved to becoming an independent bottler. So as I said before, as an independent bottler, there are certain different types of independent bottlers. For example, like Gordon MacPhail or Cadenhead or Signatory, they are like the grandmasters of independent bottling. They age their own casks. Most of the time they actually buy the new makes and then they age the whiskey like from day one until it was bottled. But nowadays, there aren't a lot of independent bottlers that have the luxury of aging a whiskey for like so many years before bottling them. Partly because of the cash flow problem. Number two is also about the availability. Um, if you are in this business, you will understand how difficult it is to get a cask of whiskey with decent quality and reasonable price. I mean, it's almost non-existent. So it's actually quite difficult. So most of the independent bottlers that I know, or my friends, they buy a cask and then they bottle it, pretty soon without being able to alter the taste profile of the whiskey. But for us, one thing that I always insist to do is to improve the quality of the whiskey, to try to add value, not only to the brand, but to the whiskey itself. So as you can see, from today, 5 out of 6 whiskeys that we are trying today, it's has undergone a secondary maturation from sherry cask. And the sixth one, the Glen Moray, it also, has a secondary maturation, but in a Lafroy cask. We'll get to that later. So this is the philosophy of Club Qing. So we try to improve whiskey before we release them. So this is a Benriach 2010 14-year-old. I don't know what your impression of Benriach is. When people talk about Benriach, if you've been drinking whiskey for a very long time, your first impression is probably, all these 1976 Benriach, super fruity, like fruit juice, but are totally inaccessible right now because they are so rare, they're so expensive, and most of the bottles have been opened and consumed. So that was also my impression for Benriach, many years ago. But nowadays, when we come to Benriach, we also find the fruitiness of Benriach, but they also do a lot of interesting cask finishes. Because there are a lot of official bottlings for Benriach. You can find basically any cask type, peated, non-peated, sherry, wine cask, hogshead, bourbon, Fino sherry, anything. So to me, Benriach is a whiskey that is quite, what is the word? Like shapeable?
Mm,
Is there such a word? Like,
malleable. Yeah, like
yeah,
malleable.
malleable, malleable.
It exists in all dimensions. Yeah, I think as
Yes.
well, particularly that period where Billy Walker owned the distillery and he was releasing single casks like it was going out of fashion. And yeah, you had absolutely everything. This does remind me a lot of some of those older like PX punctions from like 1994 and stuff like that, but obviously at a much younger tone. And then yeah, modern Benriach with the new relaunch is much more focused on their orchard fruit character. Um,
Yep.
with some heated stuff here and there, but yeah, this is fantastic. I'm reassured that I'm not crazy because Ashley was also getting some kind of jam. It smells like blueberry jam and blueberry rock candy. So sweet
Right.
on the nose, but then that disappears on the palate in a good way.
Yes, a lot of berries, a lot of jam. It's quite sweet. So I think this cast it's quite. I wouldn't use the word active because all of the cast that we use is supposed to be a solera cast, has been used for 15 years plus. So they are not very active wood in the sense that they do not contain a lot of tannin in the wood microstructures. But obviously, the content that it was held before makes a big difference into, as in how it imparts the different flavors into the whiskey. And every cask is different. I think that's also the funny part of doing secondary maturation. So this cask, I think it's probably held some very strong flavored sherry wine before the cask came to my warehouse. Um, so yes, quite jammy, berries, strawberries and blueberries, probably mostly. I also find a little bit of camphor on the nose, which is a profile that I like a lot. And camphor usually comes from Oloroso sherry cask, in my experience. Sometimes it also comes from PX, but Oloroso, it's more likely to introduce a camphor flavor on the nose. Again, a lot of chocolate, dark chocolate, lemongrass maybe.
Yeah, I was
And-
like thinking about that Chinese five spice thing again as well, and it's definitely that kind of not quite Chinese five spice, but that like almost in
Hmm,
between that and like a really soft licorice maybe. Yeah.
yeah, licorice, yes. Um, the palate, it's quite sweet. A lot of herbs, menthol, five spices, licorice, mint, spearmint, menthol. I was never able to distinguish this like mint, menthol, and spearmint. I think there are similar things, but maybe not. I don't know. A bit of roasted coffee
Mm,
on the palate.
yeah. Howard's getting strong stone fruit. Yeah, Michael definitely gets the berry jamminess. Ashley gets a subtle maltiness, and then David Wookie's better balance with flavor profile and the alcohol. It's crisp and fruity. Crisp is a great kind of description. I feel like it definitely hits you with a freshness, but not in like a overly floral or fruity way.
Right.
And then Mark's getting Redskins, or I think we call them Red Rippers now. I'm not 100% certain that like chewy red. I don't really know what it is. It's
Yeah,
like
what is
a
I
taffy
don't know what
type
Redskins
thing.
is. I don't know what
Uh,
Redskins is.
it's like a chewy taffy kind of candy, and it's like meant to be like a red flavor, but
Right.
uh, I don't really know. It's like one of those foods where you're like, what is this flavor? I don't know. It's just the flavor of this. I
Right.
think I only found out what flavor Blue Heaven milkshakes were years down the line. It's not blue flavor. So yeah,
Yeah. I
really,
got
really cool.
I also got some dried dates on the palate. In Hong Kong, some people make dates soup, which is quite weird. But they dry the dates and then they use the dried dates to make a soup, which is usually a dessert in the Chinese culture. So I find a little bit of like, sweet date soup on the palate.
Yeah, I imagine it like treats the dates in the same way that we get sticky date pudding and stuff like that. Yeah, dates is absolutely, I agree with Mark, a great call. It's that, yeah, chewy, not wholly sweet, but
Mm,
not wholly like savory or bitter
right.
or anything like that. Yeah, it's that, mm, yeah, sweet
Yeah.
and chewy. Mm.
Finish, I think, is quite medium, not too long, but it remains a little sweet, and also the date soup, prevails into the finish.
Mm.
Yep. Oh, I should talk about the label, right? Do I have like
Oh,
1 minute?
yes.
Okay,
Yes, briefly.
so let's see. Okay, so this is our latest release. It's called Bottled Realities. So for me, I'm a fan of using paintings or colorful images as a whiskey label because we already have too much whiskey labels that is pure text. So I think, at this time, it's probably a better idea to use eye-catching labels for whiskeys. So this series, it's my creation. It's called Bottled Realities. I don't know if you can see it, but
I think we've got
it
a
depicts
photo.
a
I'll
person, yeah, person inside a bottle. This one also. So this, I have to be very honest, this was generated by AI, but it has a lot of message in it. I think the concept of this is everyone nowadays in the society, we post on social media, Oh, wow, nice picture. Yes, 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 exactly. So what I want to the message for this series is that while we express our opinion or our selfies online on social media, we're sharing everything that we have in our life to the public. So in a sense, even though we are not aware, we have been, we are monitored, being monitored. Everything that we post online can be seen by anyone. So in a way, we are like a specimen in this social environment inside a jar, like a display exhibit. So this is bottled realities.
Yeah, beautiful. I can kind of see the Hayao Miyazaki influence in the like animated picture
Right.
color style as well. It's really pretty. We might move on to as well whiskey number three, which is the cats playing musical instruments
Okay.
images, which I sadly my foster kittens are all gone to their forever homes, but I am a
Oh,
massive cat fan. So I know you've done a few cat labels, right?
I am definitely a cat fan. I mean, look at my shirts. How do I do this? Okay, this one. Can you see?
I love it.
Um, you know, I don't know if this is a coincidence or what, but it turns out that most of the whiskey lovers, they turn out to be a cat lover as well. In a broader sense, it's a cat lover. But if you do a very detailed survey on whiskey labels, you will notice that labels with cats is roughly 5 times more than labels with all the other kind of animals combined. Not exactly sure what the reason is. I tried to ask ChatGPT, but it doesn't really give me a very meaningful answer. But anyways, let's go to the whiskey first. So this is a Ben Nevis 1998, 26 years old. So Ben Nevis from the 1990s has a huge popularity built up in the past couple of years, mainly because of the 1996 and 1997 vintages. They are usually extremely fruity, with a lot of fresh fruits. It's almost, how should I say that? It's super fruity to a point that it's almost like it's fake, but it's real. But 1998 is slightly different, has a slightly different profile. So if we nose this, the first impression that I got is not fresh fruits, but ripe fruits. Licorice again, citrus of many kinds, oranges, grapefruits, lemon tart maybe. And then there's a hint of coffee or dark chocolate on the nose.
Yeah.
I'm reading the comment, it's quite funny.
Yeah, Meowtalica. So yes, this is the Meowtalica series. I do agree
Yes.
as well. A unknown crossover between cat lovers and whiskey lovers. I'm sure it's because, they don't you have to put in a lot of effort to get the love back, same as whiskey. Uh,
Maybe that's one
yeah,
way to explain that.
yep.
Okay, maybe I should explain a little bit about the cast first. So this is not a full-term maturation. I don't think there is any full-term maturation Ben Nevis from 1998 out there. In my career, I've never seen a full-term matured sherry cask full-term matured Ben Nevis from the 1990s, never. So all of the sherry expressions that you can see in the market from late 1990s, they are all secondary maturation, including this one. So this, I think I put this into a sherry cask around 3 years ago. So it was in a sherry cask for 3 years. It changed the profile quite a lot. it adds the kind of heaviness and the dark fruits and the chocolate to the whiskey. And I have also seen a few other people doing the same thing. So there are a few 1998 out there that are also secondary matured in sherry cask. So maybe this is the way to go because, if you compare it with 1996, without the sherry cask, it's definitely less fruity. So the natural thing to do to improve the quality of the whiskey is to use a different vessel to add, an extra dimension of flavors to it. Oh, Whiskey Jury released some incredible sherry mature 1997 last year. Okay, I'm not aware. I think they have like a ton of Ben Nevis. Of most of the expressions that I tried from Whiskey Jury, they were not sherry. I think they have a 1998 sherry, but I'm not aware of a 97 sherry. I should try that.
I think that like the I find that when you finish Ben Nevis and sherry as well, it starts to get all of those like roast chicken skin vibes that I typically get off like a Springbank, that like funky, savory, but still sweet at the same time kind of
Right.
tones. And I like it's Ben Nevis's like this that I drink, and I'm like, why do people, go hunting for Springbank when there's incredible Ben Nevis in this similar kind of profile. Uh, and like, look, don't get me wrong, I love Springbank as well. But yeah, this is just gorgeous. I think Ollie asked a question further up as well, which was, do you predominantly favor sherry casks for your secondary maturation that you do?
Not necessarily. I try to keep an open mind. At least this is what I'm telling myself, and constantly reminding myself. But I have to admit, a sherry cask is a very good way to improve the quality of a whiskey. Of course, other casks can do the same thing. It may take longer, it may not work. But for sherry cask, if you can source the right type of sherry cask, I think it almost always worked. Of course, there are failed attempts, but the likelihood of you succeeding in improving the quality of the whiskey with sherry cask is probably higher than if you try to use a wine cask or a port cask or a beer cask or other types of exotic cask. So the short answer is no. I don't always favor sherry cask, but the long answer is using a sherry cask. It's a good way to improve the quality of the whiskey, and we have experience in doing that. And that's why that we are doing quite a lot of that.
Yeah, I find that you've got quite like a gentle touch, even with like the just over 2 year maturation for the Benrinnes. I find that your approach to that secondary sherry maturation is a light enough and a gentle enough touch that the core characteristics still come through, but it like gives it you know, uh, a lovely jacket to wear, as it were. When you're drinking it, it's bundled up in this lovely coat of sherry without being too much.
Yes, very good description. A jacket to wear. I think secondary maturation, there is also a limit as to how long you can do it. If you do it for too long, then you will mask the original characteristics of the distillery almost completely. I think that will work if the whiskey itself tastes awful to begin with. And in cases, there are cases like that. So in a few years' time, if you notice that I released a whiskey that was in a sherry cask for like 7 years, then the original whiskey is probably not very impressive.
Yeah, it's definitely it's something that I find we've struggled with a little bit in Australia when, I come across whiskies that are produced here that are, oh, it's spent its whole life in the most intensive sherry cask possible, and I'm a bit of a purist. I wanna taste the core spirit, and like a few distilleries are kind of like, well, if we put it in heavy sherry, then you won't have
Mm.
to taste any flaws in the spirit, which
Mm.
it's I'm happy to see the trend moving towards more ex-bourbon casks in the Australian
Right.
whiskey industry. I think that is absolutely where we should be heading with sherry finishes for sure. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to see. I love Mark's comment as well. It's wild how sherry transforms these delicate, fruity late 90s Nevises into funky, dirty beasts.
Right.
It really is. It is that like real funk character. So.
Yes.
Mm,
Camouflage is a good word too.
yeah.
Yes. I think, whenever people choose to use a sherry cask, there's probably a reason, reason number one is to make the whiskey looks, darker in color, because from a marketing perspective, some people believe that a darker whiskey is always tastes better. So, that's one reason. But for us, the reason is usually to improve the quality of the whiskey if it needs improvement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Well, we might move on to whiskey number four. I mean, like speaking of distilleries doing lots of casking choices,
Mm.
I think we spoke about this last time as well. Angus and I very much agree that Orkney and Highland Park just should be in a bourbon cask, and that should be its life cycle. But I'm curious to try this Fino Hogshead. This is a finish as well, yeah?
Yes. It's quite funny because, I actually let Angus try this. We tried it face to face together. So I bring this bottle and he has his decadent drink, Orkney as well. Similar vintage, similar year, but his is not in a Fino sherry cask. So we both tried it and it's quite interesting. So let me tell you what happened. Uh, so this Orkney obviously is from Highland Park because the other distillery in the Orkney Islands, Scapa, almost never releases cask to the independent bottling market. So this is undoubtedly a Highland Park, and I love Highland Park a lot. I love the slightly mildly peated profile of the whiskey. So originally, when I got the cask, I already like it so, so, so much. Almost tried to bottle it immediately. But at that time, I was also thinking, what if we do something extraordinary with the cask? So I tried to do my research. I tried to find whether or not there is any Fino sherry cask matured Highland Park out there, and there's none, like zero. So I decided to do it myself because I want to know how a Highland Park will evolve in a Fino cherry cask. So here we go. Highland Park aged in a Fino cherry cask for 3 years. And unfortunately, 2 months before I released this bottle, I noticed that Caden has done the same. So they have released a Fino sherry cask matured Orkney just 2 or 3 months before I released my cask. So there are two out there now.
Oh, they pipped you to the post. That's so rude of them. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's so interesting. I like if you'd given this to me blind, I almost would have said it was a lightly peated Ardmore.
Yeah.
It really has that heavy kind of like herbed butter on the most expensive sourdough toast you've had in your life, like that really expensive artisanal bread kind of tone to it. I don't get as much of the orange that I usually get, but all the heather
Right.
is still there as well. So yeah, it's super cool.
On the nose, yeah, totally. I got the heather. I got a bit of coastal vibe, like, when you inhale standing on the beach or something, like coastal, a bit of like wet fishnet. This is a description that I like to use a lot because it really explains the aroma that I'm tasting. It's quite earthy. seawater brine, wet rocks, mineral, and a little bit of ash, like maybe cold bonfire, a bonfire that was put off on the nose. So, it has characteristics of Highland Park, but it also has characteristics of something else, which probably come from the Fino sherry cask.
Yeah, I definitely got a bit of that ashiness as well, but it's like a really clean ash, like a
Mm,
yeah, really high tone. It doesn't feel cigary or gunky or like,
right.
you know, dry. It's just that very clean, when charcoal goes white kind of thing.
Yes. Um,
Mm.
on the palate, I think the impact is even stronger. Um, I have quite a lot of peat on my palate, grilled vegetables. It's quite savory and overall very complex. And it tastes a little bit salty as well.
Yeah, I think that grilled vegetables is why my brain is like screaming more, Ardmore. Like I always get that
Mm,
roasted root veggies kind of vibe from it. And I think the dryness of the Fino really lends itself to that more vegetable note coming out,
right.
um, which is really cool.
Yeah. I mean, this may not be the best Highland Park that you've ever tasted. It's not. But it's certainly a very distinctive style that it's very difficult to find, in the market. Smoky background on the palate and with a dry, salty finish. Exactly.
Yeah. I will ask as well, because obviously, like, this is a 14-year-old Orkney, and I think this is kind of probably one of the younger Orkneys I've seen kicking around in
Right.
modern times. As a bottler, is there still a lot of Highland Park casks going around brokers? You know, I'm worried that we might run out of indie bottling Highland Parks in the next few years.
Well, I mean, I can't really speak on behalf of the entire brokers market. I've seen Orkney cast, going around, but cast, with naming rights, Highland Park is very, very super rare. But I guess it doesn't really matter because, as we are whiskey drinkers, we're not label drinkers, right? So whatever it says on the label, whether it be Orkney, or Highland Park, it doesn't really change the fact that what we're drinking is a good Highland Park. But to answer your question, I think there will be more Highland Park or Orkney coming out. Yes.
Yeah, I'm like curious to see kind of how long it'll take before, because obviously so many hit the market after
Right.
2017 when they changed their casking and offloaded so many barrels. So like I kind of wonder if it'll be like I think we were talking last night about Capadonic with Angus, and
Mm,
how we're still able to get Capadonic casks when the distillery was demolished 23 years
right.
ago.
Yeah.
So I almost wonder if we're gonna see these Orkney casks kicking around the brokers for a while. Obviously, I would love that. Just lots of Orkney, getting older, getting more delicious as we go
Yes.
around.
I think they will still come by from time to time. But price is difficult to say. It's very hard to predict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's always the kicker is, is it just gonna get more and more expensive to get our hands on it?
Usually, unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. No. All right, we might move on to
As long as
the hmm?
the fifth one. Oh, sorry. No, I'm just reading comments. No
Oh
problem.
yeah, as long as they're ex-bourbon Orkneys, then we're cool. Then we're chill. I 100% agree, Michael. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I've tried some spectacular, like, fully matured sherry cask Highland Parks, but it just sings in an ex-bourbon. I don't know. Like, it just something magical happens. So yeah. We might move on to whiskey
The next
number
one.
5, the Glen Moray Lafroig cask finish. How
Okay.
so is this you put this in the Lafroig cask yourself?
Yes. So this is the most weird stuff that I've done in my whiskey business almost. So why did I do this? Well, first of all, Glen Moray from the 2007 is super good. I think this is the modern golden vintage of Glen Moray. If you come across any Glen Moray 2007, as long as they are not aged in like super strange cask, you should just buy a bottle and drink. They are almost always good. Um, uh, Normally they are very creamy, they are very thick, they are fruity, sweet, and it's quite complex. So I have already bottled a few Glen Moray from 2007, both sherry and bourbon cask. Both good. Love it. And I just want to do some, experiments. So I always wonder, what if I put, what if I put a very thick and creamy whiskey into a Lafroy cask? What will it become? Because this is not the profile that I'm familiar with. So, as an independent bottler, I try to improve the quality of the whiskey, right? So I did this 2.5 years ago, put it in a Lafroy cask, aged it, and then bottled it. So it's very difficult to describe this whiskey. If you taste this whiskey blind, it's almost certain that you will not be able to name this a Glen Moray. I mean, if you can, then you beat me totally. On the nose, I got a lot of cotton candies. I don't know if you call it cotton candies in Australia, but basically it's just cotton candies.
Yeah, cotton candy, fairy
Citrus,
floss, that kind of, yeah.
yes, like very sweet candies, like for like little kids. Citrus
Mm.
of many kinds, mineral, and the distinctive bonfire and smoke on the nose from the Lafroy, but not from Glen Moray.
Yeah, it's almost like my brain instantly screamed turmeric. There's this
Mm,
like beautiful, there's a restaurant near me and they do this incredible maple turmeric roasted cauliflower with like macadamia shenanigans going on. And it smells like that. They've got fresh orange with it, and it's just that orange turmeric maple kind of sweetness. It just hits me on the nose. But then yeah, like you get that kind of brighter, it's definitely suggesting those classic Glen Moray note tones on the nose, but it's not.
right.
It's quite shy with them.
Mm.
Mm.
And on the palate, typical 2007 Glen Moray um, candies, white sugar, maltose. Is there such a thing like maltose? A type of candies made from barley, actually.
Oh yeah, we just call them barley sugar. Like
Oh,
barley
okay.
sugar lollies. Yeah,
Right.
I
Barley
don't think
sugar
they have
lollies,
another.
exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Cream, quite creamy, cream soda.
Mm.
And an interesting ashy and smoky aftertone and the finish.
Yeah, it's kind of, we were describing that like maritime, like fisherman's boat kind of seaside profile before, and this kind of taste on the palate, like the ropes you use in
Right.
fishing, that like that really fibrous but salty and kind of seaweed smelly ropes, but if that was smoke.
Mm.
Yeah.
The
Mm,
strawberries and cream in an ashy club. True.
love it. Yeah, and David says slightly marmalade. Definitely get that like the bitter orange marmalade. Yeah, orangey white flowers, more earthy peatiness on the back palate, says Michael.
Mm.
Scott thinks that the nose has that medicinal pink milky syrup. Yes, like that strawberry cough syrup that we were all given as kids, which I don't think it really did anything, but it made us feel like we were taking our medicine. But yeah, so cool. It's interesting to see as well. Like I'd be curious to see if you could get your hands on some peated Glen Moray. I know that they don't release a lot of peated whiskey themselves, but they do make it.
Right. Right.
Um, and I had a peated port cask, Glen Moray, that was like a distillery exclusive that was next level. They need to do more of that. I need to call them and tell them to do more of that. But this is like, yeah, this is a much cleaner, fresher kind of variant on that.
I don't think I've seen a peated Glen Moray cask before. At least not in the market, where you can buy one. Probably, distillery exclusive or hand fills, you can get like very, very interesting stuff. So next time when I go to the distillery, I'll definitely check if they have a peated cask that I can try.
Yeah, for
And
sure. I think they have a few kicking around. They've used casks of literally every single type throughout their
yeah,
history, but I think this is definitely a first though.
yeah, I find this quite interesting, combining the peated profile of Lafroy to the creamy profile of Glen Moray. Um, it makes the whiskey becomes quite complex and interesting.
Mm.
You can also read Whiskey Fun, search comment on this whiskey. I think he writes, some funny paragraphs on this particular whiskey. Um, and one thing that he pointed out was that, are you guys aware that there is an Arbeck from many, many years ago that was named Serendipity?
Hmm.
Yeah, so that was a mistake. That was, they were trying to bottle a few casks of Arbeck and a few casks of Glen Moray, and for some strange reason, they mixed it together, vetted it together, so that it becomes a blended malt, and they called it Serendipity. So search comment was, I can understand if this is a Glen Moray finish in an Arbeck cask, but Glen Moray finish in a Lafroy cask is just so weird. So I can tell you, I also have another Glen Moray aging in an ex Arbeck cask. So it will be released in a few years. So that will be a follow up to the Serendipity.
Yeah, you'll have to give him a sample, be like, here's what you
Yeah,
wanted.
here you go.
Take what you asked for. Yeah,
Right.
it is that kind of like lesser known kind of thing that Glenmorangie company owned Ardbeg and Glen Moray for a brief period of time. So like the early
Right.
bottlings of Western Port had Glen Moray in them. But yeah, I feel like I think particularly in the wider market, Glen Moray gets underloved. And I think the IBs are the ones who really truly showcase how much the distillery can shine.
Right. I think I think Glen Moray is definitely underrated. It's a very good distillery, producing very high quality single malts. So, go support them.
Yes, 100%. And I cannot recommend the tour enough at the distillery.
Mm.
If I would splurge out for the one where you get to go into the little house where the blender works out of. But yeah, I think it was the one tour where I was like, oh yeah, this will be fine. But it blew my mind. They've got so many incredible historical artifacts as well. So I highly recommend. Most people just, yeah, they overlook it, they bypass it in favor of all the other distilleries in Elgin. So yeah.
Yep.
Now, speaking of other distilleries, we might cap off the last whiskey of the night with Inchgower. I love Inchgower. I think, again, speaking of underloved distilleries, because this is part of the Diageo Johnny Walker
Yep.
portfolio as well, isn't it?
Right, right, right. So, Emma, tell me, why do you love Inchgower? Which part of it you like? Which profile or what kind of characters do you like about the distillery?
I find that Inchgower, I don't think I've tried a full maturation bourbon cask Inchgower. It's always been in sherry finish or sherry cask, and it just has
Mm.
this dried strawberry sweetness to it that is so like that berry fruitiness, that strawberry, like dehydrated strawberry quality, I think is so appealing.
Ah,
Just as like an overall, like even if you're not a massive sweet tooth, it's still appealing enough that I recommend it to people. But if you are a sweet tooth, it's fantastic. I think I recommended a different Inchgower to somebody at the bar at Whiskey and Elmet the other night, And this girl was not a big whiskey drinker by any means, and she absolutely loved this Inchgower. And I think that it's just such a, I really appreciate the people pleaser whiskies. You know, the
Right.
whiskies that are like, you know, there's a lot of incredible nuance in certain distilleries, but Inchgower is under the radar, but just a happy whiskey. And I think that sometimes I need a whiskey that I don't have to think about, that isn't going to challenge me, that's just going to be there in my glass and happy.
Right. Okay, totally agree. In fact, Club Qing released a few Inchgower that was matured entirely in the first few bourbon barrel, like 2 or 3 years ago. It was fantastic. It was very, very fruity. It was very, very good. Next time, if I see you, I'll give you a sample of that one. Yeah.
Perfect. I think it's
Um,
the only way I haven't tried Inchgowers in bourbon. So
in bourbon, I think Inchgower performs very well in bourbon cask, but you have to give it a lot of time for maturation. Um, Anyways, okay, let's go back to this one. Don't want to drag, too long and go too far. So this is the final whiskey of tonight. It's from a Hong Kong joint whiskey bars series. So let me get the bottle. Just 1 second.
is anyone else getting the dried strawberries kind of chewy fruitiness, or am I just sitting crazy? I see a thumbs up from Michael. Yes, I'm not crazy.
Yes, it's quite dry. So this is a project that I've started like 9 years ago. So every year, several whiskey bars in Hong Kong will do a joint bottling. We pick the cask together, vote, and then the highest vote got the win. So last year it was an Inchgower, 15 years old, from 2009, I think. Yes. So this is again an Inchgower that underwent a secondary maturation in an oloroso sherry cask for 2.5 years, 30 months. This one, it's quite dry on the nose initially, but if you give it a little time, some fruitiness also appear, like green bananas, lemon, citrus, grapefruits, and lychee on the nose. And then after the fruitiness, pickled olives. Do you guys find it on the nose? It's quite thick. And then maybe some walnut liqueur, tiger balm, maybe. It's a profile that is not typical for Inchgower.
Yeah, it's definitely got like a almost prosciutto fatty, clean meatiness thing to it.
Hmm.
Michael's getting deep fried lychee. I love that.
I've never tried deep fried lychee.
Sounds like something the Scottish would do. They deep fry Mars bars over there, I hear. So maybe
Deep fried
specialty in the new
lychee.
distillery.
Okay, vocabulary added to my dictionary. Deep fried lychee. On the palate, I think it's quite meaty again. Peaches, some nice savory notes, and then maybe milk chocolate, star anise, licorice. It's quite heavy, from the beginning to the end. Finish is
Yeah.
quite long. It's very long, actually. The finish is quite long.
Yeah. I'm getting like a touch of cloves, like that kind of,
Yes.
yeah. But it almost, yeah, saying that like that meaty fruitiness, it's kind of that Italian dish where they eat prosciutto or cured meats on rock melon kind of thing. That, yeah, fruity but Rich. Mm.
So comment from Ashley, feels meaty, almost fatty, reminds me of a warmed up distilled distillate. Good. Question, how many distilleries in Scotland still uses warmed up? Anyone knows the answer?
Type it in the chat. This is an impromptu quiz.
Three. No. Yeah,
Three,
+1
three.
with Kai, that's correct. I think there are around 8 or 9
8.
the
Yeah, I
last
think it
time
was
I
8 or
count.
9.
Yeah,
Yeah,
last time I counted. Yeah, 8 or 9.
but yeah, it's definitely got a richness to it. I still can find all those classic Inchgower notes that I really love. I still find that strawberry, like that overripe strawberry kind of tone, but
Yes.
yeah, 100%. Mark has a great question before we move on to the poll for the night. Is Angus
Mm,
going to allow any first fill sherry casks into Kyth Distillery?
of course. Of course. In fact, we have a shipment of high quality sherry casks coming in a few months. If you haven't, please go check out our Instagram, Kive Distillery. There is a post about the sherry cask that we have sourced and used. So we will be using 50-year-old Solera sherry hogshead for some of our fillings. So yes, the answer is yes. We will allow first fill sherry casks into the Kive.
Yeah, I think I saw the photo of Angus at the bodega, and I'm like, oh, what a rough
Yes.
work trip that must have been. No, amazing. Well, now that
Right.
we've enjoyed and sipped on the last whiskey of the evening, I will officially run the poll. So that, oh, if it's loading, I'm getting the loading screen of death. Come on, you can do it. Yes. All right. Sweet. I will officially launch the poll. Aaron, unfortunately, you and I cannot vote as
Oh,
co-hosts. I
okay.
know, but you do get to see the numbers as they go. It's like the most exciting like racing thing you could possibly imagine. I love watching it. But yeah, while we've got you here as well, if anyone has any additional questions about Kyth Distillery or about the bar or the bottling, you still operate the bar in Hong Kong, yeah?
Yes, 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 of course. I think the bar is a very good opportunity for us to, number one, meet, friends and people. Number two is to, have a place where people can try a lot of different Club Qing bottlings, as well as, bottlings from our good friends at the same time. So yes, the bar is around and it will be around.
Yeah, amazing. Well, definitely on the list of places to visit.
Well,
Um,
I see a clear winner on the vote, but
I know.
the second place we have a tie.
Yes, a big tie, and we got a tie for third place as well. So I might insert the drum roll here because I think everyone has answered. The only three are like you, me, and Raf.
Right,
Um, but drum roll, please. And we have a clear winner, which is the Ben Nevis.
right.
Um, followed up very, very closely by a insane tie between the Orkney, the Glen Moray, and the Inchgower. And then the first whiskies never typically get as much love. But I mean, they both tied for third place, so that's not bad at all. So I
No,
think
I
it was
mean
a
at
very
least they got one vote.
exactly, exactly. I do think, honestly, thinking back to it, that Benriach really surprised me with the fruitiness. And yeah, like Mark said, the Benriach would have been number 3. So sometimes in certain cases, I allow people to do a third vote. But
Mm.
yeah, oh, Lynn was late and had a taste of the first two. That's fair. We did have a few people joining in a little bit later, but great to see the love. And I mean, to be fair, did any of them really have a chance against the 1998 Ben Nevis? Let's be honest.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you all so much for joining us for another virtual tasting. Hopefully, we'll see you at an upcoming one. Hopefully, I'll see you guys at next week's before I go away. And then you are stuck with Ollie for a few weeks while I'm jet setting around the UK. What a tragic life for me, eh? But thank you all so much for joining us. We will catch you at the next one. Take care.
Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. Have a good evening.